Hello, I'm Eduardo Rivera, and welcome back to our series on CloudOne. If you've been following us, we've done, I think this will be episode number 3. We've done a couple other episodes talking about this thing that we call CloudOne, which is something we built within NetApp IT, and it's really a form or I'll say a platform that delivers all these IT services. We talked last time we talked to Ed Wang talking about doing containers and DevOps infrastructure and whatnot. And today I want to come in and talk a little bit about the other side of that, which is the infrastructure as a service within CloudOne. And it's really more about delivering virtual machines and storage and other things through an automated platform. Now, for that discussion, I'm bringing today Gopi Sirineni, who also works in my organization. Gopi, you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, hi. My name is Gopi Sirineni. I'm responsible for cloud and cloud services for NetApp IT, and also my team is responsible for data center networking, and we look after the storage services too. And thank you, Eduardo. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, Gopi has a lot on his plate. I mean, that's a very short, but he's like doing networking, storage, everything we do in the public cloud, the automation that goes around that. A lot of the fundamental virtual and not so virtual infrastructure really falls on the Gopi's plate. But anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about this thing we call IaaS. It's IaaS, infrastructure as a service. So let me ask you, Gopi, what does it mean? What is IaaS, and what does it mean within the context of the thing we call CloudOne?
Yeah, so what does IaaS mean? Infrastructure as service, as we all know, it is a way of renting the compute resources such as servers, networking, and storage on demand over the internet. So that's basically is the infrastructure as service. So the consumer is not supposed to worry about underlying infrastructure. You don't have to be worrying about buying any physical infrastructure and maintaining all about it. You just use some web interface to consume the services, or use an API to consume the services. So that's pretty much is, you don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructure. So that's pretty much like you rent the resources that you need on demand whenever is needed. So how is that related to CloudOne? So as you and Ed Wang discussed in episode 2, so you guys were discussing about the PaaS. So the PaaS is the stack of components, application components, whether you say it application, database, or the web layer. You stack it up and deliver it as a solution, a service. So for PaaS platform to be delivered, so that is where we come into picture. So infrastructure as service is what infrastructure is needed for those platforms. So what we do is, we deliver the infrastructure for the needs for the platform as service, or any prepackaged application. If somebody needs to do the VM separately, networking separately, storage separately, apart from the DevOps needs or the PaaS needs that platform is using. So we deliver that infrastructure as a service. So that's way how it is related to the CloudOne platform as service, and DevOps is all related.
Okay. All right. So if I can kind of summarize, so when we say infrastructure, right, we're talking about you talk about self-service, virtual machines, storage, which is also delivered virtually, network components through a menu. It was kind of like what we talked about last time, but in this case, more like I'll say more fundamental pieces of the infrastructure, right? And when we talk about Ed and the containerization that he does, he has to lay down Kubernetes and all that kind of stuff. For him to do that, he needs virtual machines and networking and storage, and then you provision that for him. The same you do for external customers that are other application developers that want to get that infrastructure. They come to our side and to the IaaS interface, and they just do a couple of clicks, and then they get VM storage and whatnot.
That's right? Absolutely right. Any prepackaged applications, if they need, that we will deliver for the platform as service that Ed Wang's team is delivering. So that platform needs the infrastructure. So for that, we deliver the infrastructure needed through the infrastructure as service mechanism that we are following in cloud.
So with that in mind, right? So last time we talked, I talked about the DevOps as a service solution, but DevOps is really a process. It's a way that you build code. It's a way that we are operating as much as we can. And within that, one of the things that you or your team does is build a lot of infrastructure as code, right? So tell me a little bit about how do you employ, let's say, DevOps practices and infrastructure code practices within your team to build this environment?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways I can relate infrastructure as service to DevOps. So we ourselves are the consumers of the DevOps like methodology. So for us to deliver the infrastructure, so we ourselves follow the methodology of the DevOps. First of all, for us to deliver infrastructure as code, so we need to have the networking, basic VPCs, we need to have the tenancy created, all that stuff. So we have to create it in the cloud. So that all is delivered through the code, so which we call it.
So you're first building like the networking in the cloud, the VPC, the virtual private, the virtual private networks that you're building within AWS and others for us to deploy stuff into it, to do the connectivity, all that stuff needs to be built automatically.
Right. So all the plumbing that is needed in networking perspective, the VPCs creations and everything is through the infrastructure as code. So that's the first phase. Second phase, for us to deliver, the networking components or like storage components or the server components. So we use automation of any Terraform automation or Ansible automation. And then we do the configuration management tools to manage whatever we deliver to make sure these configurations are intact. They are correctly configured and maintained. So we use configuration management also. And for to make sure it's a continuous integration, so we use CI/CD tools like Jenkins kind of stuff to make sure that we deliver the build and testing deployment of applications. So we use that portion, and then we also use for the infrastructure we delivered the monitoring tools such as Nagios to keep the health and the performance metrics of the infrastructure we delivered. So to deliver this entire stack, we ourselves use the DevOps methodology, so which is part of the infrastructure as service. And the second way that we are related to DevOps, as I said, if this is my infrastructure is delivered using the DevOps methodology, which is infrastructure as service is delivered using the DevOps methodology. And if someone wants to they want to use their own DevOps, they want to use their own application stack. So we deliver the VMs, networking, storage needed using this methodology for them. So these are the both ways I can think of that we connect to the DevOps. So
okay, no, that's great. That's fascinating. And so you talked about obviously all the pieces that go together. I heard you talk about Terraform, Ansible, and you're using these automation platforms, right, to reach in this case, I'll use AWS as an example, reach into AWS, configure the environment, perhaps set some standards, whether those are the lower levels within, we're going to get a little technical within the linked accounts and the things that we're deploying in there, but also setting up some standards at the higher level to make sure that we have security in place, that we have logging in place, visibility, etc. Is that right?
Yes, of course, yeah.
And so we get all that process. We have this idea of delivering things through infrastructure as a service. Tell me what is actually being delivered? What are we actually handing over to the end user of the system?
So actually, we what's being delivered. So basically, we call it day one operations and day two operations. So as part of the day one operations delivery, we focus on providing variety of compute that is needed with a variety of operating systems, and also we deliver the storage needed, we deliver the load balancers, we deliver the firewalls needed as part of the day one operations. So, and then we, as part of the storage, we deliver all the including object storage, NFS, and the iSCSI for all the different needs. We also deliver the, as I said, when I was a minute ago, I was talking about, we deliver all the networking needs like SD-WAN and the VPCs needed, everything. So this is all delivered as part of the day one operations. Also,
and then they want me like I just have nothing. I want to start. I want to deploy some stuff.
It's
I get storage, I get VMs, I get networking.
It's a basic infrastructure. So the compute that you need, the network, the storage you need, the networking you need, all the firewalls or the load balancers, whatever you need, that is delivered. It is a provisioning of the infrastructure. It is delivered.
Right.
For day two operations, so we also through this automation as infrastructure as service. So the day two, what we do is if you want to scale up, scale down, you want to increase the capacity of your storage, you want to decrease the capacity of your storage, that is also is all automated. If you want to power on, power down your VMs, so that is delivered as part of the day two operations.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the mechanics. So we talk about what you deliver, how do you develop some of these things? How does the delivery of this stuff work? Like how do you make it function? Like from the clicking to receiving things?
We have as I said, all these workflows are developed for the infrastructure as code. For the provisioning the compute, for provisioning the network, provisioning the storage, the different workflows are there. So, but we put a wrapper around this, which is a ServiceNow wrapper, and we display that through the ServiceNow portal. So, which is a web portal that we display. So, user will go to whoever wants to provision their workloads, whether they want to use IaaS or PaaS, user will go to this ServiceNow portal. And they choose minimal information. So what they want. So they want VMs, they want a certain operating system, number of VMs, and then the cost center. So we ask very minimal information.
So we provide we provide a catalog, I'm gonna say a limited catalog of things that we want to present and make happen. And within there, the user is selecting what they can do.
Exactly. It's a minimal catalog. So what is the size of the VM? What is the operating system you want? So basically, we ask very minimal information. And then our cloud decision framework kicks in. It uses it some intelligence is built into it into that, and it makes some decisions of okay, what kind of storage you need, which region of the cloud, or if it is a private cloud or public cloud. That kind of decisions are made which are not which are very transparent to the user. He just answers some questions, and the decision is made by the cloud decision framework, and then it is provisioned through the private or public cloud. So private cloud is on-prem, public cloud is AWS or Azure. So this is all through the portal.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That's very good. And I know I happen to understand the environment, so I know that we do this rather quickly, right? You choose, and you click, and then 10-15 minutes later, you have all this stuff, right?
Yep.
Well, let me ask you. I mean, obviously being NetApp, we'll talk a little bit about the pros that we use. I know there's a lot of things. We talk about Terraform, talk about Ansible, but let's talk about what pros you use in there. Perhaps what NetApp pros are involved in creating all this.
Yeah, so this is actually end to end. We use different products, including the NetApp products. So to start with, as I said, the UI wrapper that presents the entire story of the CloudOne is the ServiceNow, and the database that we use for the efficient inventory management is the CMDB, and then we utilize VMware for the private cloud. So the workloads that we provision you in the private cloud as
those are the ones that are on premises. So we talked a little bit about this in the last podcast, but I guess we should remind everybody, everything that we talked about is sort of agnostic, right? We deploy this stuff in the public cloud, and we deploy this stuff on premises as well. So that's where on premises we're using VMware and virtualization.
Exactly. So VMware workloads will be used for the private cloud, and then we use AWS and Azure as a hyperscaler. For automation, we rely Ansible and Ansible Tower, and of course we use for AWS DynamoDB and the CMDB for the inventory management. For the load balancers for on-prem, we use Avi. For the cloud, we use ALB, which is native load balancers, and for storage, which is a NetApp product, which you've been asking me, what NetApp products use for ONTAP, all-flash FAS is for the private clouds that we use. And for cloud, we use FSx ONTAP. So for both SAN and NAS needs, and we also use the CVO.
Right. And then so that means when you're deploying this virtual machines and providing storage, if it's on premises, taking storage from ONTAP, all-flash FAS. If it's on the cloud, it's using FSx ONTAP. And I guess you said it's both block or file, whether that's high-SCSI or NAS or NFS, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. And we won't stop here. So we also use NetApp Spot on NetApp.
That's right. Yeah, tell me a little bit about more Spot. I mean, I know that is something that we don't get to talk a lot about, but I know that it's core to a lot of the stuff that we're doing in the public cloud.
Exactly. So we don't give this choice to the users to use the Spot or not. So all the workloads that are spun up from this portal, all the subprod workloads are automatically deployed using NetApp Spot instances. So we purchase unused EC2 instances for a reduced price. And this is like a notable cost benefits in contrast to on-demand instances that we provision. So by default, all the subprod workloads provisioned through this will be deployed on NetApp Spot. And additionally, we have an homegrown solution called Smart Parking. So we just make sure that when the workloads are not used, they are put into the hibernation mode. So there are more than 45 schedules that we have that based on user needs or application needs, they can park the schedule. So as we bundle, so the result is more efficient resource usage and the cost reductions using this NetApp Spot and also the Smart Parking.
So that's really cool, right? Because on the one hand, you're deploying all these virtual environments in the public cloud using Spot because it provides a lot of savings, right? And in this case, we're using Spot instances matched by Spot by NetApp, so we can match the existence of the instance, right? They go away and whatnot. That's the nature of Spot, but you get it on a much reduced price. And then on top of that, you're also implementing this smart parking feature, which is, well, at the end of the day, you just shutting them down, right? After they're not being used, whether that's weekends or nights or whatnot. I know that not every environment can be shut down, but those that can, then you employ this. So it's almost like double savings, right? You have a cheaper version of the instance, as well as you don't pay for it when you don't need it.
Yeah. So as I said, right, usually we enforce this. So we make sure we go and we prompt application owners to consume this service themselves, or otherwise we enforce, for example, during the shutdowns, NetApp shutdowns or in the weekends, we make sure they are parked actually. So that's the double savings.
Yeah, that's you have to be disciplined in the cloud, otherwise you run the bill. Awesome. Well, so let's talk a little bit about the results, right? You talk about the how, what we provision, what does it look like? What are the results? What do you see as a result of this environment that we created?
Yeah. Couple of things I can think of, right? So it is definitely error-free and efficient. So because we are using so much automation in place, so there is no human touch here. So it's all code-based deployment. So these are error-free and also efficient. That's one thing. And we have built in a cross-charging mechanism if we have to, so that means application owners deploying the workloads. We have a mechanism to cross-charge them. So this increases the accountability through the full chargeback. And what also that tells is whatever the resources they are using, so they are asked to pay for it if their cost center is tagged, right? So that incentivizes them to be an accountable and responsible with all the security that we built around, with the security tools and whatnot, and with all the framework and the standards that we are deploying through this code here. This enhances the reliability and the security of our system. So overall, our approach is to deliver a seamless and reliable experience to support the needs of the organization. So while minimizing the risk and maximizing the efficiency.
So efficient, simple, secure, and I guess accountable, right? When you're trying to allocate people's usage.
Right.
No, that's awesome. Well, let's let me wrap it up with this question. So now that we talked about CloudOne IaaS, what it is, what we accomplished, what is next? What's next for CloudOne IaaS? What's in the roadmap here?
Yeah, so what we have in the roadmap is obviously we want to add additional services. So we are in the middle of making our journey to the cloud. So as in we are touching more applications, there are more services are needed. For example, right now we are doing a couple of services content caching networking, right, which is CDN. CDN is what we are trying to deploy. That's one example. And WAF web application firewalls is something that we wanted to provide as part of the service here. So we will improve on the services that are needed. That is one area. And we are adding more regions and more hyperscalers to the CloudOne framework. So that means we'll have more options to choose from. It's a distributed architecture that we'll have, And we want to make it a cloud agnostic solution, meaning we want to add more clouds. So right now we have Azure, we have like AWS, and we are trying to add the OCI also into it. So that means we'll have no vendor lock-in, and we'll have a distributed architecture. So we can choose from the services and which cloud provider is competitive, and we can deliver that. So what this helps us is with the migration journey, we'll be having more options, like making it a cloud agnostic. It will be swift, and it will be quicker journey towards the cloud.
And you can really choose where to place the workloads depending on what characteristics or technical needs are.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this is great. Gopi, thank you so much for walking through all that with us. And I appreciate you being here. And hopefully we'll get to talk again and I don't know, share some new insights in a future episode. But again, thanks for everything. I really appreciated you being here. And for everybody else, thanks for joining us today.
Sure. Thanks for having me.